April 30th, 1943, 4:15 a.m. 1 mile off Huelva, Spain. The submarine HMS Seraph breaks the surface like a steel whale in the pre-dawn darkness. Mediterranean mist clings to the conning tower as 5 officers emerge onto the wet casing. Below them, 50 submariners wait in enforced silence, forbidden from witnessing what's about to unfold. Lieutenant Norman Jewell's breath forms small clouds in the cold morning air as he watches his men struggle with the canister 6 feet of riveted steel, marked only, "Handle with care, optical instruments." For 11 days, the crew has joked about their mysterious cargo. They've nicknamed it Charlie, made dark humor about John Brown's body. None of them know they're about to deliver a corpse to Adolf Hitler's doorstep. The body emerges from its metal tomb stiff and pale, preserved by dry ice that sublimes into ghostly wisps in the Spanish air. The dead man wears the uniform of a Royal Marines major, 3 silver pips gleaming on his shoulders. A leather-covered chain secures a briefcase to his wrist inside it, the seeds of one of history's greatest deceptions. You can almost hear the distant thrum of fishing boat engines carrying across the water. Spanish sardine boats work these waters at dawn, their crews hauling nets in the grey half-light. Jewell knows they're being watched, even if they can't see the observers. This is the razor's edge of neutral Spain, where Nazi agents lurk in every port and fascist sympathizers report to Berlin faster than they do to Madrid. As 4 officers hold the body, Jewell opens a waterlogged Bible. His voice barely rises above the lapping waves as he begins Psalm 39. "I will keep my mouth with a bridle while the wicked is before me. I held my tongue and spake nothing." The irony isn't lost on him. Here they are, about to loose the greatest lie of the war upon the enemy, and he's reading about keeping silent. The body slides into the black water with barely a splash. The yellow Mae West life jacket inflates, keeping the corpse face down in the gentle swells. Jewell orders the submarine's screws reversed, creating an artificial current to push their passenger toward shore. Within hours, fisherman Jose Antonio Rey Maria will spot what he thinks is a dead porpoise floating in his fishing grounds. When he pulls it closer with his oar, he'll recoil at the bloated face, the Royal Marines uniform, the briefcase that seems welded to a waterlogged wrist. He'll row hard for shore, shouting for the Guardia Civil, never knowing he's just taken the bait in an operation that will save thousands of Allied lives. But this isn't where the story begins. To understand how a Welsh vagrant named Glyndwr Michael became the most important dead man of World War II, we need to go back 4 months, to a London winter where corpses were currency and deception was an art form. January 1943, Room 13, Admiralty Building, London. The 20 Committee meets in absolute secrecy. The name itself is a visual pun, 20X, double cross, and perfectly captures their mission, to turn Nazi intelligence against itself. Around the polished oak table sit the puppet masters of British deception, but today, 2 officers dominate the conversation. Flight Lieutenant Charles Cholmondeley of the Royal Air Force is aristocracy, personified, tall, languid, with the kind of effortless confidence that comes from centuries of breeding. Beside him, Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montague of the Royal Navy couldn't be more different. A Welsh-Jewish barrister in peacetime, Montague brings a lawyer's precision to the dark art of military deception. Together, they're about to propose something that sounds like it's been ripped from a penny dreadful novel. The Mediterranean is Hitler's soft underbelly. Cholmondeley begins, spreading maps across the table. But Sicily is so obvious a target, a child could see it coming. Sicily commands the narrows between Tunisia and Italy. Take Sicily, and you control the Mediterranean supply routes. Take Sicily, and you have airfields within striking distance of Rome. The Germans know this. Mussolini knows this. As Churchill himself said, anyone but a bloody fool would know it's Sicily, which is exactly why they need to convince the Germans it's not Sicily at all. Montague pulls out a document, the Trout Memo, written in 1939. One particular suggestion, number 28, catches the eye: plant false documents on a corpse and ensure the enemy finds it. The memo's author, none other than Ian Fleming, then personal assistant to the Director of Naval Intelligence, later to create James Bond. Even Fleming's fiction pales compared to what they're about to attempt. "We create a courier," Montague explains. An officer carrying top-secret documents who dies in a plane crash at sea. The documents will indicate Greece and Sardinia as our real targets, with Sicily as merely a feint. The room erupts in skepticism. How do you fake a plane crash victim? Where do you get a body? How do you ensure the Germans find it but make it look accidental? But Montague has been doing his homework. He's consulted with Sir Bernard Spilsbury, the legendary pathologist who's testified at every major murder trial of the past 30 years. Spilsbury confirms that a body in the water for several days would show signs consistent with both drowning and pneumonia. The phosphorus from rat poison, if that was the cause of death, would be undetectable after immersion in seawater. Which brings them to their most pressing problem. They need a corpse. January 28, 1943. Street Pancras Mortuary, London. Bentley Purchase, the Street Pancras coroner, slides open the refrigerator drawer with practiced efficiency. The body inside is that of a man who died 3 days ago in an abandoned King's Cross warehouse, another casualty of London's brutal winter. But this isn't just another vagrant's corpse. This is Glyndra Michael, age 34, and he's about to become the war's most unlikely hero. Michael's life reads like a Dickens tragedy. Born in Aberbargod, Wales, he watched his father commit suicide when he was just a boy. His mother died when he was 31, leaving him alone in a world that had no use for an uneducated Welsh labourer with a history of mental illness. He drifted to London, joined the ranks of the homeless, slept in doorways and abandoned buildings. On January 24th, desperately hungry and possibly suicidal, Michael consumed rat-poison bread spread with phosphorus paste, meant for the vermin that infested London's bombed-out buildings. It took him 2 agonizing days to die at Street Pancras Hospital, his body ravaged by the poison that burned through his organs. Montague studies the corpse with a mixture of pity and calculation. Michael is thin, malnourished, with the pasty complexion of someone who hasn't seen proper nutrition in years. He doesn't look like a Royal Marines officer, Montague observes. Purchase, with the gallows humour of someone who's seen too much death, replies, he doesn't have to look like an officer, only a staff officer, one who's been flying a desk, not assault courses. The truth is brutal but necessary. Michael's body is perfect precisely because it's imperfect. A corpse that's been in the water for days won't look healthy anyway. The phosphorus poisoning that killed him will be masked by decomposition and seawater. His pneumonia-damaged lungs will appear consistent with drowning. Purchase makes an offer. He'll keep the body at exactly 4 degrees Celsius any colder, and the flesh will freeze, showing obvious signs when it thaws. They have 3 months before decomposition makes the body unusable. 3 months to transform Glyndra Michael, Welsh vagrant, into Major William Martin, Royal Marines. The ethical questions hang unspoken in the refrigerated air. Michael died alone, unmourned, his life a succession of tragedies. But in death, he'll save thousands of Allied soldiers. He'll deceive Hitler himself. He'll change the course of the war. Is it wrong to use him this way? Or is this, finally, the moment where Glyndra Michael's wasted life finds meaning? February-March 1943, My5 headquarters, London. In a windowless room that smells of cigarettes and secrets, Montague and Cholmondeley become gods of small details. They're not just creating a dead courier, they're creating a life that never existed. Major William Martin, Royal Marines, born the 29th of March 1907, in Cardiff, Wales. They keep him Welsh, a small homage to Michael's real origins. Son of John Glyndwr Martin and the late Antonia Martin. The middle name is another quiet tribute to the man whose body they're using. But dry facts don't make a believable person. Martin needs a personality, a life beyond military records. They give him a fiancée, Pam, a government girl working in the War Office. Cholmondeley, with an eye for authenticity that would make a novelist proud, creates 2 love letters from Pam, written on proper feminine stationery. Darling, why did we wait till the last minute of your leave? I shall love you always, even when you are bald and toothless. They add a photograph, a pretty girl from MI5's clerical pool, who agrees to pose as Pam. Theatre ticket stubs from April 22nd tucked into his pocket. He saw strike a new note at the Prince of Wales Theatre with his girl before shipping out. A bill from Jeeves Limited, military tailors, for a new uniform slightly overdue, because what junior officer isn't struggling with money? An irate letter from Lloyd's Bank about an overdraft of £79, a book of stamps, a silver cross and chain, a packet of cigarettes. Each item is chosen with obsessive care. Each tells a story. This is a real man who worries about money, who's in love, who smokes, who has faith, who went to the theatre 4 days ago, never knowing he'd never make it to his destination. But the masterpiece of deception is the briefcase and its contents. The main document is a personal letter from Lieutenant General Sir Archibald Nye, Deputy Chief of the Imperial General Staff, to General Sir Harold Alexander, commanding in Tunisia. It begins with studied informality. "My dear Alex." The letter is a masterwork of misdirection. It mentions Operation Husky, the actual code name for the Sicily invasion, but describes it as the planned assault on Greece. It references Operation Brimstone in Sardinia. Then, with breathtaking audacity, it includes this double bluff. "We stand a very good chance of making them think we will go for Sicily. It is an obvious objective and one about which they must be nervous. They're telling the Germans the truth. Sicily is the target, but framing it as the lie the Allies want them to believe. It's Inception-level deception, a lie wrapped in a truth wrapped in a lie." April 19th, 1943, Holy Loch, Scotland. HMS Seraph slides away from her berth under cover of darkness. She's a S-class submarine, 217 feet of steel designed for hunting in the Mediterranean's shallow waters. Her crew of 48 has no idea they're about to make history. The canister containing Glyndra Michael, now Major Martin, is loaded with the same care given to torpedoes. The metal container is packed with dry ice to slow decomposition without freezing the body solid. For the crew, it's just another piece of mysterious cargo, though the size and shape prompt the inevitable gallows humour. Someone jokes about transporting Charlie. Another makes a crack about our new shipmate. Lieutenant Norman Jewell, Seraph's commander, is one of only a handful who knows the truth. At 29, he's already a veteran of special operations. 6 months ago, he landed American General Mark Clark on the Algerian coast for secret negotiations with Vichy French officers. He's used to keeping secrets, but this one weighs heavier than most. The journey to Spanish waters takes 11 days. 11 days of normal submarine operations, diving to avoid aircraft, tracking convoys, maintaining radio silence. All the while, the canister sits in the forward compartment, its contents slowly thawing, returning to a state that will seem natural when it hits the water. Jewell studies his charts obsessively. The drop point has been chosen with scientific precision. Huelva, on Spain's Atlantic coast, offers perfect conditions. The currents are reliable, pushing northeast toward shore. The town has a capable German consul and, more importantly, an Abwehr intelligence officer operating under diplomatic cover Adolf Claus, known to be efficient and ambitious. The local Spanish officials are Franco-fascists, sympathetic to the Nazi cause. They'll share intelligence with the Germans while maintaining the fiction of Spanish neutrality. And the British consul in Huelva, Francis Haselden, is competent enough to play his part, protesting the return of classified documents while not protesting too hard. As Seraph approaches the Spanish coast on the night of April 29th, Jewell feels the weight of the operation. One mistake, one Spanish patrol boat, one fishing vessel in the wrong place, and the entire deception collapses. Worse, it might alert the Germans that the Allies are trying to deceive them about Sicily. May 1st, 1943, Huelva, Spain. The body of Major Martin lies on a mortuary slab as Dr. Eduardo Fernandez del Toro begins his autopsy. British Consul Francis Haselden watches nervously, playing his role of concerned official trying to recover a countryman's body. The doctor notes the condition consistent with drowning fluid in the lungs, the beginnings of decomposition after several days in the water. What happens next unfolds exactly as British intelligence predicted. The Spanish Navy informs their German friends about the recovered British officer. Adolf Claus, the local Abwehr agent, immediately recognizes the intelligence opportunity. While the Spanish maintain the pretense of returning the briefcase unopened to the British, they first carefully steam open the envelopes, photograph every document, and share everything with the Germans. The German intelligence machine springs into action. The documents race up the chain of command from Claus to his superiors in Madrid, from Madrid to Berlin, from Berlin to Hitler's headquarters. Each level of analysis adds credibility to the deception. German intelligence officers, trained to spot forgeries, find nothing suspicious. The personal letters, the ticket stubs, the overdue bills, it all checks out. On May 9th, a decoded German signal confirms what the British have been hoping for. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of the Abwehr, has personally flown to Hitler's headquarters to present the captured documents. Hitler studies them with intense interest, particularly the references to Greece. Greece makes perfect strategic sense to the Führer. It protects the southern flank of German-occupied Europe. It threatens Germany's vital oil supplies from Romania. The British have extensive intelligence networks in Greece, leftovers from supporting Greek resistance. Of course, Churchill would strike there. On May 12th, Hitler issues Directive No. B. 48. Measures regarding Sardinia and the Peloponnese take precedence over everything else. He orders an entire panzer division transferred from France to Greece. 2 more panzer divisions in Russia, desperately needed for the upcoming Battle of Kursk, are ordered to prepare for redeployment to the Balkans. A Waffen-SS brigade moves into position. Meanwhile, Major Martin is buried with full military honours in Huelva's cemetery. The gravestone reads, William Martin, born 29 March 1907, died 24 April 1943, beloved son of John Glyndwr Martin and the late Antonia Martin of Cardiff, Wales. Dulce decorum et pro patria mori. It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country. Glyndwr Michael, who lived in poverty and died in agony, has been transformed into a war hero. His fictional fiancée, Pam, sends a wreath. July 9th, 1943, Allied invasion fleet off Sicily. The largest amphibious invasion fleet yet assembled approaches Sicily under cover of darkness. Over 2,500 ships carry 180,000 Allied soldiers toward beaches that should be bristling with German defenders. Instead, they find second-rate Italian coastal divisions and a handful of German units spread desperately thin. Where are the panzer divisions that should be racing toward the beaches? They're 600 miles away in Greece, waiting for an invasion that will never come. Where are the Luftwaffe squadrons that should be strafing the landing craft? They're scattered across Sardinia and the Balkans, defending against phantom threats. Even as Allied soldiers storm ashore, as the evidence of the real invasion becomes undeniable, Hitler refuses to accept he's been deceived. He insists Sicily is the diversion, that the real blow will still fall on Greece. For 2 crucial weeks, the weeks that determine whether the invasion succeeds or fails, German reinforcements stay frozen in the wrong places. General Alfred Jodl, head of the German operations staff, had declared confidently just weeks before, "You can forget about Sicily. We know it's Greece." Now, as reports flood in of Allied forces advancing across Sicily, he still hesitates to move forces from Greece. What if this is what the Allies want them to think? What if those captured documents were meant to be found, but Sicily really is the feint? This is the genius of Operation Mincemeat. It doesn't just deceive, it paralyzes. Every piece of intelligence the Germans receive is now suspect. If the Allies could plant false documents on a corpse, what else might be deception? The Germans are trapped in a hall of mirrors where nothing can be trusted. Sicily falls in just 38 days, half the time Allied planners expected. Casualties are a fraction of worst-case estimates. The speed of victory can be traced directly back to those crucial first 2 weeks when German reinforcements stayed in Greece, guarding against an invasion planned by a dead Welsh vagrant and 2 British intelligence officers. August 17th, 1943, Messina, Sicily. As the last German forces evacuate Sicily across the Strait of Messina, Adolf Hitler finally accepts the truth. Sicily was never a feint. Greece was never the target. Major William Martin never existed. The Führer has been deceived by a corpse. The aftermath reveals the staggering success of Operation Mincemeat. German documents captured after the war show how completely they swallowed the deception. Intelligence reports analyzing Martin's documents bear marginal notes from the highest levels of Nazi command. Confirmed. Reliable source. Take immediate action. The operation saved thousands of Allied lives. Some estimates suggest as many as 40,000 casualties were avoided by the misdirection of German forces. It shortened the Italian campaign by months, bringing the invasion of mainland Europe that much closer. It proved that intelligence and deception could be as powerful as tanks and bombers. But there's a deeper victory here, one that speaks to the strange morality of war. Glyndwr Michael, abandoned by society, driven to suicide by desperation, became in death what he never could be in life, a hero. His body, dressed in a uniform he never earned, carrying documents he never read, changed history. The aristocratic Cholmondeley and the Jewish lawyer Montague, men from different worlds who might never have met in peacetime, created a fiction so perfect it fooled the most paranoid intelligence service in history. They proved that imagination could be weaponized, that storytelling could win battles. Ian Fleming, who wrote the original suggestion in the Trout Memo, would go on to create James Bond, the most famous fictional spy in history. But Bond's adventures pale compared to Operation Mincemeat, where the stakes were real, where thousands of lives hung on whether the Germans believed in the love letters of a woman named Pam who never existed. November 1997, Huelva Cemetery, Spain. A small ceremony takes place at grave number 1886. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission adds a new inscription to the headstone. Glyndwr Michael served as Major William Martin, RM. For 54 years, the man in this grave was known only as William Martin, the Royal Marine who never was. The British government kept Michael's identity secret, partly for operational security, partly out of respect for a promise made to a corpse that couldn't consent to its use. In 1996, amateur historian Roger Morgan uncovered the truth in declassified documents at the Public Record Office. Glyndwr Michael, the Welsh vagrant who died eating rat poison meant for London's rats, finally received recognition for his inadvertent service. The story of Operation Mincemeat has been told in books and films, each adding layers of romance and drama to an already extraordinary tale. But at its heart remains this profound truth. A man who was nobody became somebody through an elaborate lie that saved countless lives. Today, tourists occasionally visit the grave in Huelva, drawn by curiosity about the man who never was. They find a modest headstone in a quiet corner of a Spanish cemetery, marked with both names, the real and the fictional. Some leave flowers, though they're not sure for whom Glyndwr Michael, who lived a tragedy, or William Martin, who never lived at all. Perhaps it doesn't matter. In the end, both men served their country. One by living, however briefly and painfully. The other by being imagined into existence by intelligence officers, who understood that in war, the most powerful weapon isn't always a bullet or a bomb. Sometimes it's a story, perfectly told, delivered by a dead man who keeps his secrets even in the grave. The Latin inscription remains, Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country. For Glyndwr Michael, who never chose to be a hero, who never knew he would be one, the words carry an irony as deep as the Mediterranean waters that once carried his body to shore. He died alone in a London hospital, poisoned and forgotten. He was buried with military honours in Spain, mourned by a fictional fiancé, his death saving real soldiers he never knew existed. He was Glyndwr Michael. He was William Martin. He was nobody. He was everybody. He was the man who never was, and the man who changed everything.